I want to just speak briefly here this afternoon. Everything right on the, what I would call the nailhead. Ironically enough, the colonists, when they formed this United States government as it's called, July 4th, 1776, they were confronted by a Richard III. Now the Indian today, in this age, is confronted by not just one Richard, but three Richards. Richard Nixon, Richard Knipe, and Richard Wilson. Not those Richards behind, go ahead.
Richard Helster.
Now, we're surrounded by Richards. A declaration by the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress assembled. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which the powers of the earth, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Now, we're confronted with these three Richards. The one now, in all due respect, is having given the Taos Indians back their Blue Lake and all of that. This morning there was a policeman on TV singing a real song. And he had everybody involved clear up to the president. Mitchell, some guy named Dean, Caulfield, and I don't know who else. Now, first I'd like to send word back to the president, the great white father as he's known, he used to be known, that he's not my great white father. Now, in this Constitution, or this Declaration of Independence, this Richard III was accused of very many things. Now, I'm not accusing Richard Nixon of anything but having committed the crime of omission by looking the other way. He knows what's going on. And he is a veritable Caesar. Because with one stroke of the pen, Teddy Roosevelt alienated 50 square miles of land south of our reservation there. In my opinion, if ever taken to court, we could win it back if we have what they call some of these true Christian jurors. Now, there's a place here in this declaration which I think should be stricken because it's detrimental. It casts a bad image on our Indian people just like Hollywood did over the years. It says of Richard III, he has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. That should be stricken from these American documents. I want to tell you why, just briefly, and this is not a threat. I believe this. I'm not a philosopher. I'm just an Indian painter trying to paint some pictures, but the environmental forces of this reservation will not permit me to do so. Now, tyranny is here. Richard Wilson is a despot. I'll not go into the details about our personal relationship, but I intend to beat him in the end. Now, there's something I wrote down from what Anthony said when Caesar was assassinated. I want to remind you that society, in my opinion, creates its own assassins. Shakespeare, I think, is responsible. O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me, my heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. My heart's in a coffin there with Richard Nixon. He's on trial today. He's the President of the United States. And If I am convicted in federal court for having defended myself, which I doubt whether I shall be, but if perchance I am, they say something about being a felon where I haven't really checked up on it, you lose your citizenship. Now you take this back to Richard too, will you, Mr. Solar? I don't think I will have lost anything because compulsory citizenship, in my opinion, is against everything for which America stands. The national Constitution. I don't claim to be an activist, a communist, or any other ist of any kind. Just an Indian. Civil jurisdiction. The Dawes Act. Theodore Roosevelt, the racist, declared that the act was a pulverizing blow to break up the tribal mass. The Reorganization Act deprived many of us of an allotment. Now, civil jurisdiction, my people were asking me about it. Of course, many of them do not understand that there is no common law here. It's just federal or Indian, I guess. I'm not an attorney. Where was I now? I'm talking in generalities. I'm sorry, I got so much on my mind. Let's get to the next Richard. Tonight, he commits the crime of omission. He knows that illegal state taxes, sales taxes, are being collected here, but he commits the crime of omission by looking the other way. Subsequently, I've got his state government and one of his patrolmen enjoined in federal court, pro se, and I want you to all pray for me and do your Washitu prayers real good, see? Because we'll all get to white man heaven that way. You understand? Now, in order that this delegation does not go back and pigeonhole everything, I'd like to really get inspired here if I can. I'm trying to work up to it to say something really astounding. Something that they'll remember. Not any more poetry. Here on 4 of my notes I said, I want to make it perfectly clear. Like one Richard said. Now what was it, gentlemen, you wanted to know about civil jurisdiction? You want to give my opinion, is that it?
Yeah.
Of course, like I say, the laws here, and of course there's 13 major laws now, I guess. The rest are misdemeanors, and they're handled by the tribal court. Incidentally, I petitioned the court for the return of my chief judgeship out of sheer self-preservation. Because the harassment of the goon squad and so forth, and like I say, I got in trouble and I showed one of them my pistola the other day, so he wouldn't run. I had to defend myself. And I want these Washichus to know now that having wrung tears from the stoic complacency of 6 Indian jurors, I have every confidence in front of 12 black and white ones. Pro se. She's a lawyer. They tell me. Here's a lawyer here. You're all lawyers, aren't you? Let's get back to this Constitution a little bit. Civil, what parts of civil jurisdiction I could give a lecture on, I don't know, but these things that intrigue me, these laws we're supposed to swear to uphold and so forth. Everybody swears to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and then we fall into a dictatorship like we've got with this Wilson. Boy, there's a real one there. He got in there by a fluke. I underestimated a couple of my buddies who helped him. I should have had my big mouth going then, and I kept it shut, and he happened to get in there in the presidency. He's going to run again, I imagine, but I'd give him very little chance of winning. Now, here's something I think that fits Mr. Wilson. Like the other Richard that the colonists were confronted with. He has called other legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the, what is it now? Depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them in compliance with his measures. Now that's what this guy's done. We haven't had our regular session. I'm a member of the council, incidentally. our regular January session nor our April session. And in my opinion, this tribal government, as is right now, is a lame duck council, the worst we've ever had, the worst chairman we've ever had. And I want to thank these marshals out here they're being here so I wouldn't get in any more trouble in any confrontations with any of the goon squad, who seem to be drunk all the time. In fact, when I left there at Dion, they seemed to be having some sort of a confab there. But I didn't come here to insult anybody at all. I come here to tell you what the white man told me was the incontrovertible truth somewhere along the line, you know. Now let's start with the father of this country now. You expect the Indian to accept George Washington as the father of this country, who the British called a revolutionary renegade, an owner of slaves. Incidentally, the cribs at Mount Vernon have disappeared mysteriously. They were there when a Modoc Indian friend of mine, High Robbins from Oregon, was back there several years ago. They're hiding something, you see. And then here's Franklin. Let me talk about him a little bit. There's a fellow there. He's the one responsible for such verbiage as, we should look upon rum as a divine providence to extirpate these savages to make room for the cultivators of the land. Now that's to get the farmer in there and get the Indian out, of course. I've got some stuff about attorneys, but my friends here, my kindred tribesmen, and I don't want to say anything about those. I just mean watch you two attorneys anyway. Something about a fellow named Milton, what he said about them was real good. I thought it was kind of funny. Here's my notation again. Like I say, society creates its own assassins. You people, I forgot. I want to thank you for coming out here from your Olympian aloofness in Washington, D.C. and indulging us in a few days, a few hours here, a few minutes. Now, when you get back over there, like I started to say a while ago, I'm not a prophet. But I'll not like this match. But what I'm trying to say is, perhaps right now, you see, no race has the corner on intelligence. And I want you to tell Dickie, too, Mr. President Nixon, and make it perfectly clear again, that we also have evolved to just as high a scale, the organic scale, in life, as anyone has. Now, I imagine some little Indian boy is a good student in one of these schools. He's learning to read and write, and he likes science. And I think someday he may perfect a laser beam that he'll drive on a flat boy or a flatbed or whatever they call it, low boy, in a tractor, fifth wheel and so forth, and look like a big peace pipe. And he'll cross the Potomac or he'll stay this side of it. And he might make a pass at some button there. Fifth, the Washington Monument will go, and it'll look like this match if it were lit. Now, this is what you people are creating. If you go back to Washington and pigeonhole what you've heard here today. I believe I am. You understand is what I said. Now, this is not a threat. It's what I'm afraid of.